Okay, so the next step, as you can actually see here, that I also added somewhat of a front silhouette, kind of roughly. Oh, come on, just roughly put that in, so I can get a better sense of the width of all the shapes here. So again, we can definitely get it a little bit more cleaner, but basically, again, just to get a better sense of the width of different shapes. Again, very roughly, very simple. We can tone that down, and basically the next step would be to start in and start placing some major shapes, like spheres for the head, just something simple like that. You can do some basic shapes to acknowledge the face. You can do an additional rough shapes for the chest, the rib cage here, and also try to figure out where the shoulders are. So I actually did that on a different layer before, just so to not to waste too much time here. But basically, just plotted in those basic shapes. Oh, come on. There we go. That's the correct. So plotting those in, notice that I also placed the hips and made sure that I drew a straight line down, because we do want to make sure that our arms and legs are straight. Initially I have placed the joints for the arms down, but then try to bring them up into a straight line. And so that would be our next step in the process. And once we've got those shapes, and again, the basic process would be to go in and start actually adding additional shapes that will define the basic volumetric shape of the arm, of the forearm. You know, how big is it? Do we want a large forearm? Is it a muscular guy and it's gonna have a bigger muscles here and there? So those steps are very, very important and needed to be performed one after the other. So let's see, here is the next level where I actually did and added some additional shapes. So now we kind of have a better sense of how big our different body parts are, and we can start adding more and more flesh details right on top of that. So so again, let's zoom in here. So because we do know, let me maybe change this to a different color here, because we do know the shape a little bit better, we can now start actually putting in flesh that would really give us the proper outline. We'll know exactly where the shoulder is going to be and how things are going to connect, and it will give us a much nicer, a more clear structure and so forth. So here we can kind of get a better sense of where his belly is going to be, where the hips are, and how the flesh will wrap around the leg. There we go. How does the muscles connect here and here into the leg, and so forth. So something along these. We'll know exactly where our ankles are, and that will give us a much clearer process. We can do the same thing with and add some more detail to the face. So we're starting actually now to add flesh into our character. So here is actually a level that I did with a little bit more outline of the fleshy part, and you can actually see that a little bit better this way. And of course, the next step would be, sorry about that, and the next step would be to also keep on adding those details. So notice here I actually added a little bit more facial features, and using the guidelines. So very important, use the guidelines to actually make sure that everything is consistent within front and side view. And only after we do have the flesh and the skin over the bones and everything is properly layered and has the proper volume and shape, we can start adding more of a clothes. So you know, this gives us a much better guideline into where, for example, we should put the belt of the the belt for those for the pants. So maybe we can start here and kind of draw this around his waist. We'll know exactly actually how far it needs to go. We don't need to guess too much, and our sketch is not going to be too loose. Everything is going to be much more precise. We'll do the same thing and have a better understanding how our wrinkles need to fold around the leg, where the knee fold is going to be, and keep adding those details. Everything is going to be much cleaner. So again, actually here I do have a quick step up in that process, and we can actually turn off some other there we go. With this in mind, we know exactly where our joints are, and when we start modeling, we do not really need to guess that much. Everything is basically pre-configured. We know precisely where our joints, where the centers of our joints, and we know that whenever we rotate, nothing extra is going to happen in terms of the deformation. Gives us a clean reference, something that works, and we know for sure that when we actually start modeling, we're not going to have to do a lot of corrections and going back and remodeling, which means that we're also going to have to retexture. If in case we find out during the rigging process that our geometry and our joints do not match. So make sure that you go through this process first and everything is defined. You have the proper solid structure, internal structure, and then everything is layered one on top of